Hello! It is the morning of, Friday the 13th of January, and I thought that I would bring you a vlog from our vacation up in Steamboat. Last year, I was pregnant during the winter time, and so did not get the opportunity to ski as much as I like to. And so this year we took all of our vacation pretty much over the winter. So I was just up here for a week skiing with my family, and I'm back to spend some wonderful and much needed relaxation time in the mountains. So for the video this week, I thought I would show you kind of a vlog of our time up in Steamboat. Right now, it is 8:25 a.m. and I am enjoying a much needed cup of coffee and winding up my Nutiden into balls. So this is a ball of Nutiden that's been wound up from a plate. Thank you for everyone who told me that these are called plates. I am winding it into a ball where the strands of the Nutiden unspun yarn is held double. And I do have to say, this is one thing about knitting with unspun yarn that I don't love, the fact that you really have to put quite a bit of work into it before you use it. That's something that I find a little hard. I know that there is a company where the plates actually come with it double, which I'll have to look into, but it's worth it. And I also think it's just fun. Actually, if I take a step back and I'm like, don't get too crazy, I do think there's something like beautiful and slow and methodical about getting to touch your yarn twice and knitting it into these beautiful balls. So that is what I'm doing this morning. I think for the rest of this week's vlog, if you are so inclined to stay here, you can expect to see lots of family time, lots of like videos of us on ski lifts, because that seems to be like the time when I take out my phone and actually film skiing. And what else are we gonna do? I'll probably do some cross-country skiing. I definitely, when I'm in Steamboat, spend a lot more time downhill skiing, like alpine skiing, than cross-country, but I do love cross-country skiing. That's actually something that I found out I love with being pregnant, because I didn't do it too much growing up apart from in gym class. So we did a lot of cross-country skiing in gym class, but I didn't like of my own accord go cross-country skiing until I was pregnant. So yeah, maybe we'll bake something. Generally, we'll just be playing in the snow, which I love, and it's supposed to snow a lot here. So hopefully you'll also see some just beautiful footage of snow falling in the mountains. So I am going to continue winding up these balls, and I'll take you along for the ride. The other thing I thought I could show is some of the books that I'm thinking about reading. So yeah, it'll be a nice little knitting, reading, skiing, playing in the snow vlog for you to watch.
Edie? Hi.
Hi, honey. Hello. It is the afternoon, Friday the 13th. Spooky. And I am coming to you from the ski slopes. This morning was a work day for most people, so we didn't have the childcare in order to go downhill skiing. So for me to get the best bang out of my buck, I am here earning my turns, as we like to say. And about halfway up the climb, it's beautiful. It's through this little neighborhood in Steamboat, and it's just gorgeous. So I'll show you some views from this beautiful sunny day. It's very, very snowy, as you can see. So beautiful. Hi. So it is Sunday evening, and I thought that I would just come in and check in with y'all. I have had a great past couple of days. I have gone downhill skiing twice and cross-country skiing twice. It has been amazing. It even started snowing this afternoon. You should be have seen some footage or about to see some footage of the beautiful big snowflakes falling. So we are really looking forward to doing some powder skiing tomorrow, and I can't wait. But I wanted to come in and talk about a few of the things that I'm knitting on and a few things that or one book that I finished reading. And one thing that I am trying to cast on here, because I'm feeling the need for some color work. I really, really love color work. I do it all the time, and I don't know, I feel like I haven't done color work in a while. I really haven't done any color work since I finished my Yell cardigan, and so I'm feeling like I need some color work, you know? But I wanted to show off a few of the things that I am working on. So I'll start with this. So I am knitting the Monday sweater by PetiteKnit out of this Nutiden yarn, and this is in the color, I think it's Corspinea, and I am holding it double. I am in very artificial light now because it's like the middle of the evening. But this is this really, really beautiful gray yarn. I would say it's mostly gray, but when you get up close to it, you can see so much depth of color. There's some pink and peaches, and I am knitting the Monday sweater actually with my mother-in-law. So this is the first time she's ever knit a sweater. She's knit a bunch of Afghans and things like that, so she already has a really, really beautiful base, but hasn't done short rows or increases or anything like that. So she is doing an awesome job, and I am knitting this with her as well. I've already separated my sleeves, and I'm just knitting around and around on the body, and it's really great. I'm really enjoying it. yeah, super enjoyable knit, and I am knitting this for the Bougie sweatshirt cal that's being led by Casey of the Young Folk Knits podcast. And yeah, I think this is just gonna be like a great bougie sweatshirt to wear. Just a nice gray that when you come up close to it and see it in real life, it's actually got a lot of depth to it. So I am really enjoying this, but this is now just stockinette in the round, and the other thing I'm knitting is just stockinette in the round. So I finished my sock. So this is the January Sock Squad colorway by Farmer's Daughters Fibers, and I knit this into a wonderful sock. I can put it on. So the top of this sock, look at that. I don't know. I never really know how to show these off because I don't have sock blockers, so you just get me holding up my weird foot in a very awkward way. But and you can see like all of our ski gear and things like that. We're just coming at you. This is just a very casual vlog, but this is the January colorway. I am thinking that I probably will write this up as a free pattern for people to download of just like a nice easy sock, because I really love how this shows off this beautiful colorway. So it is this really lovely blue that has speckles of pink and darker blue. And then the contrast color, as you can see, is a sort of like medium grayish blue. I really, really love it. And I have to say, I think that this little picot edge is gonna look amazing popping out of my boots. So I have finished one sock, and this is on my journey to knitting at least 12 socks this year. I really want to take each of the sock sets that I get mailed in the mail and make it into socks. So I finished 1/2 of 1/12 of 1/24th. Anyway, and I cast on the second sock as well. I have a little chocolate frog by, I think that's made by Simply Serving. I think that's right. Little tiny chocolate frog. I don't talk about it very often because J.K. Rowling sucks, but I really, really love Harry Potter. It brings me a lot of solace, so I have a lot of little Harry Potter trinkets to hang on my knitting, which I still really love, but it comes with complicated feelings. Anyway, this is the second sock, and I've already cast it on. I've already finished the picot hem, and you can see where I knit the edge down right there. So yeah, but now this is essentially just stockinette in the round. So I have two things that are just stockinette in the round, and while I love stockinette in the round, especially when I have a kid that I'm watching and I've got a lot of things to balance, but I want something a little bit more, shall I say, interesting to work on. And so I really want to cast on a pair of mittens for myself. So actually this evening, my job is to hand wind these two skeins up. So this is a really, really beautiful skein that I got from my friend Kat of the Heather and Hops podcast. This was a gift from her that she sent, and I had initially talked about knitting this, holding it with the darker yarn that she sent me as well to make some colorwork mittens. But then I saw it next to this. This is Spin Cycle yarns dyed in the wool in the Devilish Grin colorway, and it is the Devilish Grin, but it's different than any of the other Devilish Grin I have seen, which I've seen a lot because I just knit a shawl out of this, which I'm realizing now I'm not sure I ever showed you. I'll do that eventually. But the Devilish Grin, this one is much more moody. It's darker. It has like rust colors in it. It's gorgeous. And I saw these two together and I was like, this would look gorgeous with the darker yarn as well, but I might be able to make this go further if I knit these yarns with various different colors of the spin cycle dyed in the wool that I have in my stash, because I have a lot of like random just like single skeins of the spin cycle and I want to start using it up because it's really, really fun to knit with. And I just saw these together and I was like, yes, that needs to happen. And so I am knitting, I'm gonna knit these into, I can't remember, I bought the Nordic knitting club from Ellie of Sonder Knits, and so I'm gonna pick one of those. I think I'm gonna pick the one that is actually like inspired by her grandmother who's Russian, and so yeah, I'm really excited. So I'm actually going to wind these up right now, but I wanted to talk to you about two different books. One, I am going to start tonight as I wind up these skeins of yarn, and one is one I just finished. So I think I mentioned that I was reading Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. Wow. All I have to say is wow. I cried at the end of this book. It moved me. It was so good. I will say I'm not sure that this book is for everybody. I think that this is literary fiction like at its finest. And I say literary fiction because this book brings together so many different genres that I feel like the only genre I can actually put it in is literary fiction. So this book is a little bit hard to explain because there are three main timelines, and for that reason I'm actually just going to read to you the inside of the book so that you can get a sense of what this book is about. Set in Constantinople in the 15th century in a small town in present-day Idaho and on an interstellar ship decades from now, Anthony Doerr's gorgeous third novel is a triumph of imagination and compassion, a soaring story about children on the cusp of adulthood in worlds in peril, who find resilience, hope, and a book. In Cloud Cuckoo Land, Doerr has created a magnificent tapestry of times and places that reflects our vast interconnectedness with other species, with each other, with those who lived before us, and with those who will be here after we're gone. 13-year-old Anna, an orphan, lives inside the formidable walls of Constantinople in a house of women who make their living embroidering the robes of priests. Restless, insatiably curious, Anna learns to read, and in this ancient city famous for its libraries, she finds a book, the story of Ethon, who longs to be turned into a bird so that he can fly to a utopia paradise in the sky. This she reads to her ailing sister as the walls of the only place she has known are bombarded in the great siege of Constantinople. Outside the walls is Omir, a village boy miles from home, conscripted with his beloved oxen into the invading army. His path and Anna's will cross. 500 years later, in a library in Idaho, octogenarian Zeno, who learned Greek as a prisoner of war, rehearses 5 children in a play adaptation of Ethon's story, preserved against all odds through centuries. Tucked among the library shelves is a bomb planted by a troubled, idealistic teenager, Seymour. This is another siege, and in a not-so-distant future on the interstellar ship Argos, Constance is alone in a vault, copying on scraps of sacking the story of Ethon, told to her by her father. She has never set foot on our planet. Like Marie Laure and Werner in All the Light We Cannot See, Anna, Omir, Seymour, and Zeno, and Constance are dreamers and outsiders who find resourcefulness and hope in the midst of the gravest danger. Their lives are gloriously intertwined. Doerr's dazzling imagination transports us to worlds so dramatic and immersive that we forget for a time our own. Dedicated to the librarians then, now, and in the years to come, Cloud Cuckoo Land is a beautiful and redemptive novel about stewardship of the book, of the earth, of the human heart. It's so good. So essentially it is a book that weaves 3 different stories together. One, like it mentioned, is about Anna and Omir, who live in Constantinople, sort of during the siege of Constantinople, and they're connected through the story of Cloud Cuckoo Land to the octogenarian Zeno and Seymour, and what's going on in the library while they're acting out the play Cloud Cuckoo Land with Constance, who is on an interstellar ship after Earth has been destroyed. It is crazy. It's so good. I will say that it is slow. It took me probably about 100 to 200 pages to like really get into it, which is crazy because literally at the very beginning of this book, some really intense stuff happens that makes you very invested in the people and the stories that they are discussing. But because they're these sort of intertwined stories, sometimes you don't really know how they're all connected or if they're even all going to come together. And I trusted Anthony Doerr to bring them all together because I have read All the Light We Cannot See, and that was lovely, and also brought these sort of stories that seemed disparate together. But I did not know how that was going to happen here. And I think the thing that I love so much about this book is truly that it brought together multiple different stories from vastly different genres. So really one of the storylines is like beautiful historical fiction. One of the storylines is beautiful science fiction, and one of the storylines is beautiful contemporary fiction. And the writing is just perfect. It's so, so beautiful. And I feel like the thing that this story was really surprising to me is that even though really hard and challenging things are happening in each of these people's lives, I walked away from this story feeling so hopeful. And it's just been a while since I've walked away from especially a literary fiction novel feeling hopeful. I love literary fiction, but I generally can only read a couple of them, like 1 or 2 in a year, because I often feel like I walk away feeling depressed. And this book made me feel differently. I walked away with like hope and redemption, and it was so beautiful. The other thing that I thought was interesting, which maybe this is just part of my general reading style, is I really enjoyed each one of the different plot lines, where I feel like oftentimes when you're following multiple different points of view, you can be like, oh, I really favor this plot line, but that's not at all how I felt here. I really, really loved every single plot line, and I wanted to know what was going to happen to all of them. I would say I say that, but I'm like, the one that I didn't like quite as much is the historical fiction, but I think that's just because historical fiction is not like the thing that like really gets me going. But I think the most important thing to take away is that like I honestly was so enthralled and in love with Omir and Anna's story that I don't even think that I didn't like it as much. I like in theory wouldn't like it as much, but I was honestly just as excited to hear about what was going on and interested to hear about what was going on in their timeline as well. So Cloud Cuckoo Land, it takes a little bit to get into it, but it is so worth it. I also think like the other caveat I will make is like in general, I really love beautifully written, character-driven, long stories. So it was so good. This was a book, it made me cry at the end. Like, I don't know. And it made me cry, but like kind of like tears of joy, like tears of hopefulness crying, which I feel like I don't get that often when I read. So yeah, if you like kind of character-driven, long, exquisitely written stories that have disparate parts that are brought together, you will adore this. It's so good. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I'm obsessed. And then the book that I am starting right now, literally after I finish filming this little segment, is the sequel to Beartown. So I read Beartown by Fredrik Backman this summer, and that book was, I think, my favorite book of 2022. It was so incredible. I still think about it constantly. And this is the sequel, Us Against You, which I honestly didn't even know that Fredrik Backman wrote sequels, but I think there's actually 3 books in this series, and it's wintertime. It is about hockey, and so I feel like I gotta read it. I'm really, really excited. So, what are you reading? Are you reading anything amazing? If so, please tell me. I would love to hear about it. And yeah, I'll keep you posted on how this goes over the next week or so. All right, bye. Hello. Sorry for the very strange angle. Edie, May, and I are hanging out here in the basement, and I thought that I would come give y'all an update. It is Tuesday, and I just got back from a very, very relaxing soak. Me and my husband went to the Strawberry Park Hot Springs, which is this really beautiful natural hot springs here in Steamboat. And it's so relaxing and so beautiful. So I put a bunch of footage from that day I'll put right after this video. But I wanted to touch base about some of my knitting whips. So I have a bit of a tale of woe. I was very excited to knit these colorwork mittens out of these 2 yarns. So this is the yarn that Kat, sorry if you can hear Edie. This is the yarn that Kat of the Heather and Hops podcast sent me. And then this is Spin Cycle Dyed in the Wool in the Devilish Grin color. Sorry if you can't hear me at all. Anyway, this is a sport weight yarn, and this is a DK weight yarn. And I thought they would be fine knit up together, but truly, I think it's really, really hard to see the color work with these 2 yarns. So I am going to go back to my original plan and knit these same mittens out of the 2 different colors I have of this. And in some ways, I feel like that will be more special. So the only sad part is that I didn't bring the darker colorway with me. So I'm going to take this out and frog this little mitten, and I'll just have to knit my mittens when I get home. But the other thing that I brought is this skein of Handspun that I worked on earlier this winter. And so my plan is I just wound this into a ball, and my plan is to knit this into a hat. I'm thinking either a Harlow hat or some other, or like a ribbed hat. I'm not totally sure. I kind of think that the brioche would be something fun and different. And I'm craving that because all of my whips right now are very monotonous, stockinette in the round. So I think a Harlow hat. That is the plan. Hi.
That is cold.
Hi, honey. Hi. What do you got?
I've never seen a movie that cute.
Hello. So I just wanted to touch base about this. Here, you can play with this. I'm here with Edie, and she's mad because I just took this away from her. So I was very inspired by Tommy of Moonstone Make's most recent podcast, where she was showing off her handspun hat. And I really want to make a handspun hat as well. And so I, as I had just mentioned, cast on the Harlow hat out of this ball of my handspun. And I am realizing that I love this fabric. It's a little hard to see, especially because I'm like holding my phone and trying to do this all at once. But I really love this fabric, but I think with the yarn overs of brioche, I don't have a ton of this yarn, and I think it's about a worsted weight yarn. So I think what I'm actually gonna do instead is I'm gonna rip this out, which is just the tubular cast on and like half an inch of brioche. I'm gonna rip this out and cast on for just a like plain 1x1 rib hat. I think that's the move. I think that will be better than this. So commence me ripping out my knitting yet again. Edie. Hi. Edie and I are on a walk through the neighborhood. I have been spending most of the morning inside doing some crafting, working on my handspun hat, which has been amazing, but you can probably see that the snow is coming down. It's probably snowed 3 or 4 inches already this morning, and it's so peaceful. I'm just in awe. It's so beautiful. So we are gonna go around. We lost Edie's hat, and so she is wearing one of her grandma's hats that's folded up and that I knit her a couple years ago. And yeah, we're gonna go for a walk, and then I'm gonna go do some cross-country skiing this afternoon, and I can't wait. It's gonna be so beautiful. So I'll bring you along for that adventure as well. It's dumping out here. Hello, everyone. It is the afternoon of Wednesday, January 18th, and I am out enjoying a very, very snowy cross-country ski. We're going downhill skiing tomorrow, and we're gonna get first tracks, which means we get to get on the Gandhi an hour early. And it's gonna be so good. There's like 8 inches of the funky fresh out here. Anyway, I'm so stoked. And this is just so peaceful. I'm about to cross one of the really gorgeous parts of this trail, and I will put in some video of the river running beneath me. So beautiful. I hope everyone is enjoying their January as much as I am. I love the winter. It's the best. Hello, it is Thursday, January 19th. Hopefully this video will actually go out this evening. And I am coming to you from my parent-in-law's house. And oh my gosh, we had literally the best day of skiing maybe of my entire life today. It was 14 inches of fresh powder and a bluebird sunny day. It was literally gorgeous. So you will have or will see some video footage of that. It was just like so peaceful and breathtaking, but also so much fun. It's too good. For those of you who don't know, or if I have never said, I am spending the week up in my hometown in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and it has just been snowing like crazy. You can see this is what I look like usually post-skiing, so didn't get dressed up for y'all, but you know, that's the way things are. The only knitting that I'm wearing are actually these socks, which I guess, I don't know if I can show it to you, but these are these like really cool, I'll try to find the pattern. They're a really cool lace sock, and these are actually the first socks that I ever knit, which is insane. I don't know. I feel like sometimes when you don't know, you just do it, and then you wind up with your favorite socks that are very, very cool. But I am sitting here in the living room. Sansa is right below us, which is why I'm awkwardly reaching down and it looks like I'm petting something. It's because I am. You might be able to hear that I have a bit of a sniffle going on. My niece, who spent the beginning part of the vacation with us, is in kindergarten and gets colds, and we're in a nanny share with them, so we get a lot of colds, and I've got a little cold. I honestly feel totally fine apart from the just like faucet that is running from my nose. It's the weirdest cold. Like, I don't have any headaches, no body aches, no fatigue. It's literally just my nose is like a waterfall of snot. So anyway, I may have to pause in case I need to blow my nose, but I am enjoying a delicious cup of tea, as well as some cookies and lemon curd. We baked these cookies earlier this week, and this is the first time that I've ever used a cookie press. No one told me these exist, but look how beautiful these little sunflower cookies are. This was just like a little machine. These are just butter cookies that we just... So anyway, I am enjoying a delicious afternoon snack, and I thought I would come in and just kind of summarize the knitting and reading that I've done this week. So this week I mainly knit on 4 projects, and then I knit on one additional project, but that one I already fragged, which I showed you earlier in the vlog. So I will just start off with a couple of sweaters that I have knit. So this is the Monday sweater by PetiteKnit, and I am knitting this out of Nutiden yarn. This gorgeous unspun roving. And this is the Corspinea colorway. And this is just a very basic raglan. I think this is actually the front. Raglan sweater that I'm just zooming away. I'm actually knitting this as a make-along, a little knit-along with my mother-in-law. She's knitting her first sweater ever, and I got her some like beautiful, beautiful yarn for Christmas. And yeah, part of her gift is me helping her figure out how to knit this sweater. I will say, I've had a lot of people ask me to talk about like patterns and how easy they are to follow. And I think that PetiteKnit patterns are very clear and very easy to follow. She definitely doesn't give a ton of information, but sometimes I think it can feel good to not be bogged down by just like tons and tons of descriptions of what you're supposed to be doing. But I suppose that that may be because I have knit many, many sweaters. But I know that she has some really simple knits. I will say that even though this looks really simple, there is a period. So you first off have to do this double knit collar, which looks beautiful. And then you transition into knitting some short rows and raglan increases at the same time. And I do think that that was a little bit challenging. So just keep that in mind. Otherwise, now that I have split for the sleeves, I am just knitting around and around until I'm ready to bind off. So yeah, I think this will be a really beautiful little bougie sweatshirt to add to my collection. And I'm really enjoying the yarn and just the whole process. I think knitting with these kind of more delicate yarns with such a simple pattern has actually been really enjoyable because it has kind of forced me to like slow down and be more methodical and just really take my time and enjoy the stitches. Though I will say I don't think it's as hard as some people may. I'm a relatively loose knitter, so you can see Sansa. What are you doing? What are you doing? Okay, the next pattern I want to talk about is the other sweater that I have been knitting on, and this is the Wool and Honey sweater by Andrea Mowry. I am knitting this beaut. Sansa, isn't this beautiful? Yeah. I am knitting this sweater out of Biches et Bûches Le Petit Lambswool in the medium brown, the soft orange brown colorway, and I love it. It's this really, really complex orange and just a really beautiful, it doesn't feel rustic to me at all. It feels very similar to like Shetland, like Jamieson's and Smith or Jamieson's of Shetland Spindrift. It feels really similar to that. So it's not terribly rustic, though I am not a good judge because I don't think anything is very rustic. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this sweater. I have knit the entire yoke of this sweater and I am just knitting round and round in garter stitch, which is kind of fun, honestly. It's nice to have like knit purl rows going back and forth. And I find for me personally that the thing I don't like about purling is actually switching back and forth between knitting and purling. Like ribbing, to me, I just find like that it takes longer. But honestly, when I'm just purling a row and knitting a row, I don't mind that at all. So pardon my nose, but this is all that I've knit since I've been up here. So just about an inch. I still have a few inches to go. I think that you're supposed to knit this. I guess I don't know if you're supposed to give away parts of the pattern, but like you're not going to figure. I personally would not be able to figure out this crazy yoke. So I think you knit like 6 inches or something. So I probably have about 4 inches, so just a couple more inches left before I knit the ribbing. And this is honestly a sweater that is replacing another fingering weight sweater, the same exact sweater but in a different yarn. So I really am enjoying it, and I really want to be able to wear this. So this is like, I think, going to be my real focus in the next couple of weeks, because I really would like to get it done. Let me blow my nose real fast. Whew, sorry, didn't want you to see that. Okay, the next 2 things I've been working on are also just like accessories, and one is my socks. So these are these Pecot edge socks that I've been working out of the Farmer's Daughters fibers in their January Sock Squad colorway, which is so beautiful. It is this kind of periwinkle light blue that has specks of darker blue and magenta. Obsessed. And then the heels and toes I'm knitting out of the contrast color that came with it. That's a really good color representation right there. So I cast on the second sock, and you can see I just have about 1.5 inches left to do on the cuff before I do the heel flap and gusset. So I'm really enjoying it. This is so pleasant, and it's funny because like for a while there I was not, like, my sock knitting mojo had just like totally left the building, and I think last year I only knit like a couple pairs of socks in the entire year. But I am so enjoying this. Like, it's really nice to have a really small portable project that has bits of complexity, meaning like the heel and the toe and the top and everything. Like, it has bits of complexity, and in between that, interspersed with like plain stockinette. I'm just really enjoying it. So yeah, I love it. I also just really love how this cuff looks. So I am planning on writing this up as a free pattern for folks to use. It will just be like a recipe, so you'll really need to know how to knit a sock, but I'll write it out and kind of tell you how to do it, or at least what I did. So it's also on my Ravelry page. That is another thing that I'm trying to do. I'm really trying to be better about updating my Ravelry, and I actually got the Rabbit app, which you had to pay for, and I think is kind of bogus, but I did it. And I have been finding it much easier for me to update Ravelry with that. Just because before, like, I had to log on to my computer. I didn't have a computer, so I had to be like, Sean, can I borrow your computer? Anyway, now I can just use my phone, update it. It's easy peasy. Tea. The last thing I wanted to show off is my handspun hat that I'm almost done with. I cast this on, honestly, yesterday, and it's like all I've wanted to knit on. It's so fun. This is really, like, I would say the first real thing that I've ever knit with my handspun, and I'm obsessed with it. So this is some wound up fiber arts in their pink grapefruit colorway, and this I spun a couple of months ago, and I was so inspired by watching Tommy's podcast that I was like, I need to knit with my handspun, and I had brought it up here, and so I was like, I'm doing it, I'm casting it on. And as you saw, I had a bit of a false start, but now I'm almost done, and I'm just really loving how this is turning out. It's obviously like, well, I almost don't want to show you this side, because this is like the side where my knits don't look as good, where on this side, for instance, it just looks a little bit more tighty because my purls are tighter than my knits. But so I'll show you this side. I really love it. There are definitely portions where there's like thicker bits and thinner bits, and I didn't really know how to fractal spin. So honestly, what I did with this fiber is I just split it down the middle and then split it a bunch of times and then made little tiny balls of it, like split it into smaller bits, made little balls of it, and then just like willy-nilly grabbed things randomly. So it doesn't have the same kind of fractal striping pattern, but I actually really like the way that it turned out. I kind of like that it's a little bit more cohesive. And so this is just a self-drafted 1x1. Oh, what's going on here? I think this is just a long end. Yep. This is just a 1x1 hat, and I am starting to work on the decreases. I didn't even shower after I skied, so the benefit of that is that I don't care about my hair being messy, but I think this will look so good. I love it. So anyway, I'm just finishing up the decreases, and then I'll have this really awesome little cap. I am playing a little bit of yarn chicken. Like, this is the ball of yarn that I have left. So pray for me. So that is all the knitting that I have been working on. And I just wanted to quickly recap the couple of books that I read this week. So as I already talked about, I finished Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr, and this book was so good. I would say if you're a book nerd, you will love this, because this book is really about people who are connected by books and by one specific story, and the power of libraries and how they can change the world. And I loved it so much. It brings together, as I said, multiple different genres. It's a little bit slow and more character focused, but really fun, really interesting. Things are happening all the time, and all the different storylines have something beautiful to give and show. So highly recommend Cloud Cuckoo Land. And then I am 306 pages into Us Against You by Fredrik Backman. This is the sequel to Beartown, and there's one more after this. I think it's called The Winners, which I just added to my library. So hopefully I'll get that soon, but this is phenomenal. I love it so much. And I don't know if I love it so much just because I loved Beartown so much. Like, Beartown was so fantastic, and this is not disappointing. Like, I think it is just as good as the first one. It's so, so beautiful, and I care so much about all the characters, but especially Benji. Benji, I love him so much. He's like one of my favorite characters I've ever read about, ever. This is making me, so I get a lot of, like, all of my tattoos that I've gotten recently are based off of literature or like children's books, but I kind of want to get a bear tattoo for the Beartown. So I don't know, I may need to do that. I think like the tattoo would also have multiple meanings, because my brother's name is Rory, and everyone has always called him Rory Bear. Well, everyone in the family, like my mom, that was like his loving nickname, was Rory Bear. And so he actually has like a big bear on his arm, and I kind of want one to be a tattoo to my brother and for this book. So I think that might be my next tattoo. I think I'm gonna have to do it. So anyway, sorry, I had to blow my nose again. Anyway, it was so fun to make this vlog this week. I think it's also something that I will look back on and love watching my skiing videos and seeing little videos of Edie and things like that. And I think honestly, this is like the type of
video that I really like to make because it feels like a journal for myself. And I'm just curious what you all think about this style of video. Is this something that you like? Would you like me to do more things like this? I really love watching Vlogmas, and I love having little glimpses into people's lives, and I wonder if maybe the few videos a month, like 2 or 3 videos a month, are more like vlog, and then I would have a real like sit down and just go through all of my knits and things like a usual podcast episode. So let me know what you think. Is this something that you like? Is this the type of thing that you like to watch, or not? I honestly, even if everybody hates it, might just keep doing this because I really like making it, and I think it's a fun journal to look back on for my kid and my family. So yeah, but I'm curious what you all think. I hope that you are enjoying your January, whether that is in sunny southern hemisphere or in the northern hemisphere where we're kind of in the depths of winter. I thrive this time of year. It's my favorite. I love skiing. I love cross-country skiing. I love knitting. I love drinking tea. I love lighting a candle and watching it burn. I love the peace and tranquility of winter, and I don't mind the cold. So for me, this is, I think, the time of year where I really thrive and come alive, and it's just fun to connect with you all. So next week I am back at work, so it will not be nearly as fun of content if I do decide to do a vlog, but please let me know what you think about this type of format and if it's something that you like. I am wishing you well, and I will see you next week. Bye. Sean, what are we doing?
We're skiing powder.
Ah!
Got a foot of blower.
Foot of blower.